Here with pocket threes, I would certainly go ahead and open for a raise like you do, and you do pick it up, so very nice. Alright, ace-6 suited in this situation. What I have picked up just from reviewing these first few hands is that both Freck and this Kv player are fairly loose. So I think I would probably go ahead and put in a 3-bet here. You can consider calling, but you're going to find that you end up folding the best hand quite often post-flop. So I think you're better off going ahead and putting in a 3-bet here. This would be a pretty cool spot to make it. I don't know, 800 or so. You're going to pick it up a ton of the time. And now on the flop, you have to get out of the way. Here you open the 4-3 suited in the cutoff. It's okay. I'm not really a fan of small suited connectors, but whatever. They have merit. You get a flop that I would probably continuation bet as well, but if you know anything about these players' calling ranges, like say you know both these players only call with big and medium cards, and they're never calling with stuff like 6-5 suited, then I would probably not continuation bet, because this flop is going to nail their range pretty hard a lot of the time. But, it's never bad to make a continuation bet, so I'm fine with a continuation bet. You get raised, so of course you fold. King Jack facing a pot-sized bet from the button. So we really haven't seen too much out of this player so far. I'm normally inclined to 3-bet this type of hand, but whenever a guy makes it 3.5 big blinds, I'm not exactly sure what that means. It's probably either a very strong hand or a very weak hand. So I think I'm going to be prone to call here and take a flop and see what develops. You 3-bet, and I'm okay with the 3-bet, like I said, but you can never be thrilled in this situation when you get called. So you get a bad flop, you continuation bet again. I would be betting about half pot with my whole range, as you do bet here. He min raises, so you're done with the hand. Kind of unfortunate, but what can you do? Oops. Here you open 7-8 suited and get 3-bet again. Again, you're going to be out of position if you continue in this hand, so I would probably fold. Whenever you're calling raise 3-bets with hands like suited connectors, you're going to want to make sure you're getting something like 20-1 implied odds to justify a call. And right here, you're going to find that you have to put in about, well, you have in 3, you have to put in 8, so 500 more to try to win 8,000. So you're not getting quite 20-1, you're getting like 16 or 17-1. So because of that, I think this is going to be a pretty easy fold. Again, you really don't want to call out of position because you're not going to flop well enough most of the time to justify the call. You do flop well enough this time, so that's nice. But this is definitely not what's going to happen most of the time. Alright, so you check, he bets, and at this point I would probably go ahead and put in a raise. He bets small, so you don't want to blow him off his hand. I would definitely make a raise, but it seems like you want to go ahead and put in some more money. So I would probably make it 1,400 or something. Okay, so you make it pretty big. I think this is not a great play. What's going to happen here is you are going to force your opponent off a lot of stuff. Unless he has an overpair here, he's probably going to fold. And it's pretty tough for him to have an overpair, especially given that he continuation bet's pretty small. I think this is a bet he's going to make with his whole range. So you really want to make a check raise that's going to keep him in with a lot of that stuff. You want him to stay in if he has king, queen for whatever reason. So anyways, I think your raise size is way too large. I would definitely make it smaller. And notice, if we go back here, you're going to be able to get it all in on the turn and river if you do make a small check raise. Like, say I make it 1,400. The pot's already going to be 4,500, and he's going to have 7K behind. Or no, 6,500 behind, so you can easily get it all in by the river. The whole purpose of check raising is to try to get the money in, of course, whenever you have a value hand at least. And if your stacks are really deep, sometimes you need to check raise big. But right here, your stacks are not that deep, so there is no point in check raising big. You call an early position raise with ace-queen. That is good. Call on the flop. You check the turn. I think this is fine. You could also value bet if you felt like it. If you do check behind the turn, you definitely need to value bet the river. So you check the river, or he checks the river, you value bet. Looks good to me. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Okay, so you call pre-flop, you flop a pair, you check call. Kind of a dicey turn card, and your opponent does bet rather big, so I would consider folding here. I would probably look him up, though, because the king is a pretty good card to bluff, and if your opponent now has ace-jack or jack-10 or jack-9, he has a gut shot, and he may bet those again. So I would probably call here, but I really don't fault you for folding. That's a pretty bad turn card in general. It's a good fold with ace-jack from early position. Alright, so this guy's raised a few hands. Now, I would probably go ahead and 3-bet him here, and this would be a 3-bet for value, of course. If I got 4-bet, I would intend on folding. I think there are a few hands you can 3-bet for value, but fold if you get re-raised. I think hands like ace-queen, pocket jacks, pocket tens often fall into that category. Some players never 3-bet them, some players always 3-bet them. I tend to mix it up. If you think the guy's going to call your 3-bets a lot, you should probably go ahead and 3-bet because you're going to be 3-betting for value. But if you think he's going to either 4-bet or fold, you should tend to call. So you miss the flop, and then you get out of the way. We have an under-the-gun limp, and you like the limp behind. I have no problem with this. You get raised, and now you have to fold. So it's unfortunate, but that's what you get for limping. I'm not going to say I would always do this, but this is a spot where you can consider check raising if the small blind folds. When the small blind calls, you should probably get out of the way. Sometimes, if you know the small blind will always raise if he has a jack, you could actually check raise now because you know the small blind doesn't have a jack, and your raise is going to look a little bit stronger because you're check raising into two guys. If it was something like say the jack was a club, I'd be much more inclined to do it. But on a board that's this bad for you, there's nothing wrong with not going for it. So here this guy raises again. I mean, I would start 3-betting this guy pretty relentlessly. If he's going to raise every hand, I'm going to go after him. So yeah, they checked you on the flop. Good spot to c-bet. So very nice there. Alright, right here with ace-8 offsuit, I have no problem with folding this hand. If they fold to you with ace-8 in the hijack, there's nothing wrong with folding. If you think your opponents are overly weak, go ahead and raise. So that is what you do, and you do pick it up. King 7 is an extraordinarily similar hand to the ace 8. I would actually be much more inclined to fold this one, but both hands are pretty bad. So I don't think I'm opening this, and I open a pretty wide range, but this is pretty far from optimal, I think. I don't really have a problem with opening it, I guess, but you have to be very, very careful that whenever you do get a top pair type flop, you don't get in a ton of trouble. Alright, so here this Larry player min raises, and you like to call in the big blind. It is one more big blind here. Notice there are no antes yet. If there were antes in play, I would be much more inclined to call. But with no antes, there's nothing wrong with folding here. I mean, the guy's not deep stacked. If he was deep stacked like you, then I would say, yeah, take a flop all day. But he is shallow stacked, and whenever the guy is shallow stacked, you're not getting very good implied odds. So I would probably fold this pre-flop. Alright, so this is kind of interesting. You check and he bets pretty big. If you know he's going to bet pretty big like this post-flop frequently, then you can be a little bit more inclined to call pre-flop because whenever you do flop a pair, you're probably going to end up getting paid off nicely. So if you know that he plays like this after the flop, I'm okay with calling pre-flop, but you have to have that read pretty set in stone to know that that is a good play. Here your ace king 9. Anytime the board comes two middle cards, it's not really a good spot to continuation bet. So I do like your check behind. It's very good. This guy bets half pot on the turn. You're getting pretty good pot odds to call. Wow, you just fold. I have no clue why you fold here. You've made two pretty tight folds in this tournament. Once with the ace-jack and now right here. You're getting 3-1 immediate odds. And you know you're going to win this at least 20% of the time. And if you do hit a spade, you may get paid off. So right here I think you have some implied odds. Not a ton, but certainly enough to make up for the 4-1 you need to be getting. You're going to be getting an additional, whatever it is, 400 chips probably on the river for sure. So I definitely do not like this fold.